1 week until we actually have the NFL draft and we know exactly what's going to happen and we know how we should be updating these rankings. But until then, I have done a little bit of tweaking. So I'm sure if you've noticed over there on the site, you've seen some players rising, you've seen some players falling. Feel like we need to talk about it. And a big thing is just looking at updated NFL mock drafts and looking at where these guys are expected to go, because obviously we're not learning anything really new about their prospect profiles April 17th, as opposed to what we knew back March 17th, right? But we are getting a greater sense. Like, we get the 16 players that were invited to day one of the NFL draft, and all of a sudden, oh crap, it looks like Jalen Milroe is actually looking like he has a shot to be a round one NFL pick. Probably unlikely. More likely than not, he goes early round two. But regardless, I think that for me, I needed to go through and I needed to update my rankings. A couple different things that I did here personally with some of this news is I did decide to move Travis Hunter up to wide receiver 2. He is my 5th player overall at this point. More and more steam coming out that the Cleveland Browns are going to take him at the 2nd pick overall. I was with the FSC guys and the Domain guys in New York this weekend, past 5 days or so. And we talked a ton of rookies, right? I mean, we were sitting here talking all freaking day. I mean, I probably talked to them 20 plus hours. Insane. Had a ton of fun. But of course, we had 1,000 fantasy football arguments and discussions. And one of those centered around Travis Hunter. And it was crazy to see that. Also, I don't have any sports books where I live in Texas. So we logged on to DK and saw Travis Hunter's like minus 330 to go to the Browns. The FSC guy's been saying that Cleveland's general manager is coming out and he's repeated multiple times that they view him more so as a receiver. So for me, I am personally moving Hunter up these ranks. Another thing that I decided to do personally is I decided to move Sanders down inside the same tier with Dart and Milroe. More and more steam's coming out that Sanders is not going to be a top 10 pick in the NFL draft. And y'all know I repeat over and over and over again that for my personal dynasty rankings, I understand that I'm an idiot with evaluating quarterbacks coming into the NFL. I'd say most people are going to be, right? So I'm going to look at NFL draft capital, indicating how many games these guys are actually going to get to start at the NFL level. I mean, if they're a bust, say Daniel Jones, they're going to get a larger leash if they have that draft capital in comparison to maybe somebody who was drafted in the 2nd round, right? Now, of course, we can go back and we say, oh, Trey Lance was drafted at 3 overall and he never got a shot. But it's probably because he was very, very bad. And our trust in the Niners was horribly wrong there. So, of course, there are going to be NFL busts. We all know that. But we are looking at draft capital indicating job security. We are looking at rushing upside. So when they do start, can we trust them in fantasy? Are they going to have a serious amount of upside? And we are looking at the situation they're stepping into. As of now, it looks like Sanders is probably going to be the 2nd quarterback off the board in the NFL draft, but it seems like Dart and Milroe are not going to be that far behind him. And at the same time, Milroe has all the rushing upside in the world. So I moved Milroe up dramatically. He is a mid-2nd rounder now in my Dynasty Superflex rookie ranks. And then also we have Dart and Sanders inside the same tier. Now, of course, if Sanders ends up going to the New Orleans Saints at 9, Jalen Milroe ends up falling to pick 50, then at that point, we'll update the rankings after the draft. Sanders will probably jump up here next to the tight ends. Milroe will probably fall down a little bit to the tier below with like Tootin. But as it stands right now, with the updated NFL draft capital, I think I'm going to be putting these quarterbacks in the same tier where previously we had Sanders up here. And yeah, I did update this tier as well. Rookies in tier 5. I put the tight ends where they look like they are pretty much guaranteed to be top 20 picks in the NFL draft, or at least that's what sportsbooks were saying when we were doing that research. I put them ahead of Luther Burden, Caleb Johnson, Matthew Golden. Of course, this range can rearrange itself very quickly. Matthew Golden looks like he has a very real shot to be the first wide receiver off the board in the NFL draft. I think wide receiver draft capital matters a little bit less than other positions, but if he finds himself a great landing spot, I would be quick to move him up to the 109, right? And same thing, Tyler Warren finds himself a crappy landing spot, I'd be quick to move him down to 13. So that's why I personally am updating all my rankings on the site with tiers. So feel like those are the big updates that I need to discuss. Obviously, I'm going to continue to update these rankings. I don't want to say every day, but pretty damn close to it, especially once the NFL draft actually gets here. But what I want to do now is I want to go ahead and dive into some of these teams. Tandy submitted this a long time ago. Tandy submitted this freaking weeks ago, and I'm so damn sorry that I am just now getting to this my friend. I didn't want to look at the screenshots you submitted just because if you link your team with the site, which I know you did, or at least I did now, you gave me your sleeper ID. I was DMing with you back and forth. I can just get so much more information about this, and I'm really trying to dive as deep as I can with these reviews for you. And I really wanted to try to come up with some very specific trades, and it's easier for me to do so if I can see your entire league. So I'm sorry that it took us so long to look at your team. I just really wanted to get the context of the overall league, right? The league settings, the whole 9 yards. So we went ahead and we linked your team with my team's page here. And just in case anybody's watching this doesn't know how to do that, just go to the my team's page, hit add new. And then if everybody watching this is going to be playing Dynasty, of course. So your Dynasty league, if it's on Sleeper, you can just copy and paste the league ID, and you could just put that there, hit submit, and then you can link your Dynasty team with it. But anyway, let's go ahead and let's dive into this team review. And yes, Fatty, we are going to be getting to yours right after this. Thank you for giving me your team name. I'm excited to look at it. But anyway, this is Caleb's Nail Salon. So you will see that Tandy has by far and away the best team in this league, right? It's not even remotely close. We are #1 in the league analyzer. This is going to be a 10-team format. We also have the 102 in this year's rookie draft. So that's going to be a very important little piece of this. If you go back and if you look at my rankings, I do have Hampton currently in a tier by himself at pick 2. Now, of course, if Travis Hunter, they tell us, hey, he's going to be a full-time wide receiver, that will quickly change. But as of now, when we don't have that certainty, Hampton's in his own tier at 2 for me because he has pretty much guaranteed round 1 NFL draft capital at this point. I think he's like minus 1,000 to go round 1. He has the size to be a 3-down player. He has the receiving capability to play on 3rd downs. So that's exactly what we're looking for in Dynasty, right? So for me, I think almost regardless of your roster, which your roster is extremely, extremely strong here, I'd be looking at running back there at 2 and adding him to Bijan Robinson. But nonetheless, let's go ahead and let's dive into this all. I mean, we can read the entire message real quick. We won our Dynasty League in its 2nd year. Thanks for all the help throughout the season. I think I'm poised to keep contending. With the 102 in this rookie draft, what trade should we make? Should we get rid of Kyler? Or should we trade for a running back or tight end? So it's going to be a 10-teamer, right? So it's going to be a little bit tougher to trade away quarterbacks. Like, I would love to say, oh, yeah, I mean, we have 5 starting quarterbacks. Let's trade away Bryce Young very easily. Bryce Young's not necessarily going to make a big difference. So super easy to just pivot off of Young and get an upgrade anywhere, especially if we're able to get an upgrade at tight end. But the reality is, 10-team league, everybody's going to have close to 3 starting quarterbacks. So it's going to be much easier said than done. If we are trying to sell Young, like just going team by team here and trying to figure out who actually could use that extra quarterback. Team at 2 is Herbert, Lawrence, McCarthy, Stafford. They have no need for him. The team at 3 maybe could use Bryce Young. They have Baker, Dak, or Russ, Daniel Jones. But reality is Bryce Young comes in as their quarterback 3. That's maybe not the highest the priority for them. Joe and company, this is maybe our perfect trade candidate. I mean, or trade partner, one would say, where they have Joe Burrow, Will Levis, Aiden O'Connell, and that's going to be about it. And also, they are sitting here with a couple assets that would really help our team. I would make the argument that this team here should look to be a rebuilding roster, even if they have the top-end assets of Chase, Bowers, Gibbs, Burrow. It's a super flex league. Their quarterback 2 is Will Levis. Their running back 3 is Justice Hill. Their wide receiver 4 is Alec Pierce. The depth here is going to be extremely limiting. Maybe if it's going to be a shallower starting lineup requirement, then at that point they can go ahead and say we're pushing to contend with our studs. But I mean, if we could afford to go out there and pay for Bowers, I personally would love to do so. And honestly, where you're sitting here with like 50,000 points with your cumulative value, I think that realistically you have an argument to be made that we can afford to go up and pay for that elite level tight end. Now, of course, the question is going to be, what does that deal look like? Because we're not getting to Brock Bowers no matter what. I mean, we can throw Bryce Young, Kyler Murray, and Kyle Pitts all in a pack. Hell, let's try to do that real quick. Let me pull up the trade calculator on the site. If you ever want to have an idea of like if you can get a trade done realistically, I would say that the work that we put into our trade calculator is probably the best you're going to find, especially because you can actually put in your exact league settings here, right? So we're going to have a 10-team super flex specifically because that's what your league is. Let's say we are giving them Kyler, Bryce Young, and like Kyle Pitts, does this get us anywhere close to Bowers? If it could, that's phenomenal, right? Because I mean, we are sitting here and we're in a spot where we could very easily give up Kyler Young. It makes zero impact on our output this next season and long-term outlook, where we're starting Daniels, Caleb, Bo Nix anyway. We bring in Brock Bowers over Kyle Pitts. Our expected points per game this next season go through the roof, and it's not like Bowers going to fall off anytime soon. So, I mean, I would love to do so. For me personally, I think maybe the trade calculator is being a little bit generous, thinking that we can get Bowers for this little trio here. Like if we can go through and look at some recent Brock Bowers deals, like somebody traded Bowers for Kyron, Jennings, Pitts, and a future first. I would probably rather have the Bowers side here, personally. Somebody traded Bowers for Harrison, Pitts, Flowers. Typically, I ignore the massive deal. Somebody traded Bowers for 2 first-round picks and Kyle Pitts. So maybe realistically, if we look at this trade finder and we look at some of the real deals that have gotten done in sleeper leagues, this could be something we throw out there, because looking at their roster, they're going to be able to bring in Kyler, Bryce Young as their QB2, QB3, then go in with Pitts, Kraft at tight end. So obviously they're getting a significant downgrade at tight end, but they're upgrading their quarterback room in a dramatic way. So, I mean, if you could make that move, I would absolutely love that. I think both Kyler and Young are expendable. Let's see if we have any other rosters that could use an additional quarterback. A Saquon D's Nuts, pretty funny team name, not going to lie. I've not seen that one before. This would be a strong candidate as well. Probably viewing themselves as a contending roster where they have Barkley, Kyron, Montgomery, Amon-Ra St. Brown, DJ Moore, Jaden Reed, Devontae Adams. So they have the depth, right? They don't really have any tight ends that are going to interest us where we're that juggernaut team. We don't need to go trade for a discount guy like Evan Ingram. One thing that we could look to do is we can afford to tier up to Josh Allen, right? Especially if they don't have the quarterback depth. Their quarterback 2 and 3 is going to be Justin Fields and Anthony Richardson. So if you could maybe take like Caleb and Bo Nix to get to Josh Allen, and then we roll in with say Allen and Daniels into the season, that'd be phenomenal. It says we are winning this deal, so maybe that this is actually not going to be possible. Looking at some recent trades that have got done, somebody traded Caleb for Josh Allen and JSN, but they had to add in the 102, 103. So yeah, they're definitely adding a little bit more here. So maybe we need to throw in another piece to this as well, which, I mean, you're going to be one of the very few rosters that actually can afford to make a move like this. Let's see what other piece this team could look to add that we can afford to give up. 3rd and 4th is not going to move the needle. I don't want to say like, oh, let's throw in Bryce Young as well, right? Because I don't necessarily know if this team needs to bring in 3 total quarterbacks. Because if they're getting Caleb and Bo Nix, then they're going to be sitting with Caleb, Nix, Fields. So I think maybe we just end up needing to give them... We give them our future first, where we are just pretty much a guaranteed contender. I think that this is going to be something you can look at, sending them Caleb, Bo Nix, and a future first for Josh Allen, and just really paying up for that top end piece and giving away the extra quarterback starter here. Let's see if there's anything else that could make sense. Now, this roster, in my opinion, definitely should be a rebuilder as well. I know they have a couple of first-round picks. Maybe if one of these is the 101, they can actually look to contend this season. But almost the same situation where they are sitting with Lamar Jackson, right? So they're in a very comfortable spot in reference of the top-end value, but the depth beyond it, they have no quarterback 3. Their wide receiver 3 is Sutton. Their running back 3 is Algier. So again, maybe they are looking to rebuild. So maybe if that same offer we sent for Allen, we send for Lamar. And if a team's looking to rebuild, Caleb and Nix could be a very appealing package for them. This roster is Hurts and Mahomes. So maybe same thing here, right? This is definitely going to be a rebuilding team. Maybe sending just like Bo Nix and that future first. Actually, I don't want to be sending Bo Nix and a future first. But if we can send some younger quarterbacks like Bo Nix and Bryce Young, because the entire point of this is we're trying to sell quarterback depth to get up to that upgrade. I understand that Bo Nix was better last season if we're going to be looking at the points per game. One thing, I don't know if y'all have seen this on the site yet, but you can definitely take advantage of. Let's sort this by expert. You can go ahead and you can actually pull up the stats for these guys so we can look at Mahomes and his fantasy points. We can say, oh, okay, yeah, Mahomes in comparison to Bo Nix was worse last year, right? At least down the stretch in this season. Where if we're going to be looking at Bo Nix, he finished quarterback 7 in total fantasy points. Mahomes quarterback 12. Mahomes 2 years ago, quarterback 8. So I understand that he has been disappointing the past 2 seasons. But again, all you have to do is go back 3 years ago, QB1 in fantasy, QB3 in fantasy, QB4 in fantasy. His first 6 seasons, he gave you 5 top 5 finishes. So, I still view Mahomes as that clear upgrade, and I'd be fine going through and packaging together the younger assets to a rebuilding team to get that deal done. See if we have any other clear moves to make. Again, I think that 102 you have, I'm going to be adding Hampton. I think it's a great running back room. We're sitting with Bijan, like Hampton, James Cook. Only real consideration to pivot away from that 102 to a different player is going to be if Travis Hunter does indeed go up pick 2 overall, and then all of a sudden the Browns say, yeah, he's a full-time wide receiver. We're not going to play him at all on the defensive side of the ball. If that's the case, if you want to go Travis Hunter, not going to fault you at all for it. Wide receiver, we have Jefferson, Thomas, Puka, JSN. Absolutely no reason to do anything here. You are sitting in a situation in which you have pretty much a stable foundation of players that will make you a contending roster no matter what for the next 4 seasons at receiver. Tight end, definitely think that we can afford to upgrade. Looks like a couple of those deals we were talking about trading away future first. We don't have our future first. So that's maybe not going to be a possibility in terms of going through and sending that pick for a package to go get like Bowers. But maybe if we can send one of these quarterbacks straight up. And again, I do agree with your sentiment of, oh, we can trade Kyler, we can trade Nix, we can trade Young. Any of these quarterbacks are expendable. Or again, if you wanted a package like Caleb and Bo Nix, try to get Lamar, try to get Allen, I think that's another move given the fact that we have the depth to get away. But let's see what teams have the top tight ends. We already looked at a potential Brock Bowers deal, but I think you could also afford to go out there and try to attack a team with like Laporta, TJ Hawkinson. One thing that you could look to do, right? This roster here, I understand that they have 3 quarterbacks with Stroud, Love, Penix. But if they're viewing themselves as, I don't know, if they're going to be viewing themselves as a rebuilding team, would they have any interest? And let me just see where the tight ends are ranked alongside the quarterbacks. Yeah, would they have any interest in taking Bryce Young from us for Laporta? I would trade Young for Laporta relatively easily with your build. And they have Hawkinson, so maybe they're willing to make that pivot. This team has Bowers. We already discussed the Bowers deal. This is the team with McBride. So the difficulty with trading with them is they're not particularly needing another quarterback. They have Herbert, Lawrence, McCarthy. They have plenty of depth at running back. They have plenty of depth at wide receiver. We're not really wanting to tier down either, considering the fact we are a juggernaut build. We kind of just want to be tiering up with our moves. That's why we're talking about all those 2-for-1, 3-for-1 deals. But definitely think trading up for a tight end is going to be in play for us. And again, when you're this strong, this much better than everybody else in the league, and you won it last year, last thing I'm looking to do is like trade any of our top assets like Bijan, Jefferson, Daniels, or whoever for a tier downgrade, especially in a 10-team league. I think you're chilling as is. But yeah, you have by far and away the best team in the league. So outside of trading that depth quarterback, as we discussed, and trying to make those tier ups, there's not much else I think we have for you. Let me hook you up with a couple free trade questions, however, just in case there's anything that comes your way. I'd be super happy to take a look at it, especially during or after the NFL draft, my guy. But I really do appreciate you and really hope I was able to help you out in some way. And again, I'm very sorry about us taking so long to get to this team review for you. I just really wanted to make sure that we could look at your entire league and try to come up with some exact trades rather than just taking a peek at your roster in particular. But yeah, I really do appreciate you and hope I was able to help out. Now, another person that we had to put on the back burner, took us a while to get to their team, is going to be Fatty. We did not know Fatty's team name, but he shot us a DM, and now we do. So excited to check this out. It's going to be for Golden Boys 717. Say Mason took over this team from someone else. Looks okay, but I don't know. I really want to contend this year, Please let me know what trades need to be done with who and what players we should pursue in the rookie draft. And again, Fatty is with us in this live stream. So please, if you have any additional questions of what I'm saying, throw it in the chat. I'll be super happy to go back and forth with you. First thing I want to address, though, will be the teams at the top are extremely strong, right? So you have 2 juggernaut builds in this league that we're going to have to go up against. It's a 2 quarterback, 10 team start 9, half PPR, half point tight end premium format. So quarterback's going to be super important here. You only have 7 non-quarterback starters. You throw the tight end there. You're starting 6 total running backs, wide receivers in a 10-team league. Running back, wide receiver depth, almost useless in this format. But quarterback's going to make up a very high percentage of your starting lineup output. So we're really wanting to build around that where we can. And these 2 juggernaut teams, Burrow, Mahomes, Herbert, Daniels, May, Love. This team has Bijan, CMC, Mixon. It's going to add in Ashton Genty. They have Jefferson, Higgins, Wilson, Rome. They have Hawkinson. Over here, London, Ladd, Harrison, Gibbs, Hall, Taylor, Bowers. Now, of course, I'm not sitting here and saying, oh, okay, these teams are so strong, there's no way that we can contend. I do just want to address the elephant in the room that we are the underdog here. You took over this team, not your fault whatsoever, but those 2 rosters at the top are significantly better than the rest of this league. Now, on the flip side of that, you have some of these teams at the bottom, like this team. Russell Wilson's their quarterback 3. Devin Singletary's their running back 3. Ricky Pearsall's their wide receiver 1. Hunter Henry's their tight end 1, right? That's a roster that you have absolutely no concerns with at all coming at you. And looking at our team, it's going to be difficult to say that we should be a contending team. The reason being is looking at us position by position, there's almost no spot where we stack up to the top teams in this league. Now we have our 2 cornerstone pieces that could blow up any given week. And I'm sure if you watched any of the Flock League last year, you saw Joe, who had Josh Allen, won weeks with Josh Allen and Josh Allen alone. Allen is always in play to drop 38 points and win you the week by himself. But nonetheless, I mean, our quarterback 3 is Levis. So quarterback is going to be an issue that is definitely going to be something that we want to address. Running back Chase Brown does have all the upside in the world to be an RB1 this next season, but there's a non-0% chance that the Cincinnati Bengals go out there with all the running back visits that they've had, with the limited team investment that they have into Chase Brown himself, that they invest into a running back, and then all of a sudden we actually have Chase Brown's value nuked. Looking at Pacheco, Benson, this is not a running back 2, running back 3 combo that we can be confident with coming into the season. Going over to wide receiver, yes, we have the stud with Lamb, but then we have Debo, Pittman, Diggs. And here's what we can do as well, right? And this is obviously not an ad by any stretch of the imagination, but it's legitimately what I'm doing if we're trying to just get an objective and unbiased view of if we should be viewing ourselves as a contender or not. We can literally just look at ADP right now and see in 2025 drafts, where are these players getting drafted? And it's not to say, oh my gosh, this is how we should be valuing players in Dynasty, but it is to give us a little sense of what should expectations be. Kelsey's getting drafted as the tight end 9. So arguably at the moment, we have like a low tight end 1. We have an elite wide receiver 1 with Lamb. But then beyond that, Debo is a low end wide receiver 4. Diggs is getting drafted as a borderline wide receiver 5. Pittman is getting drafted as a borderline wide receiver 5, wide receiver 6. Keenan is getting drafted as a wide receiver 6. Going over to running back, again, Pacheco's getting drafted as an RB3. Benson's getting drafted as an RB4. So on the whole, our team, if you were just looking at redraft ADP or just cost in 2025 drafts, you could have a more competitive team just getting in a redraft league right now. So I don't want to sit here and act like you have no shot, but I definitely want to address the elephant in the room, right? This is a team that you are the massive underdog. Now, we are 4th in the league analyzer, but most of these teams 3 through 9, they're about the same. So moves from here. If you were to pivot over to a rebuild, the issue that you're going to have, and why I don't particularly want us to go and pivot to a rebuild right this second, is the guys that you would need to sell. You would need to sell Chase Brown, in my opinion, before the NFL draft. If I'm a contending team and I can go buy Chase Brown, I'm doing so. At a reasonable cost, that is. But if you're a rebuilding roster, is Chase Brown a running back whose value is guaranteed to increase going into next offseason? By no means no. It's in the range of outcomes. But also there is that possibility he gets nuked, and that's not what I want on a rebuilding team. You need to sell Pacheco. You need to sell Debo. You need to sell Pittman. You need to sell Diggs. You need to sell Kelsey. I would throw Lamb on the trade block, and if we can get a great price, if we can sell Lamb and get Brian Thomas in a future, if we can sell Lamb and get Brian Thomas in a significant piece, would be interesting. I would throw Jared Goff on the trade block. If we could sell Goff and get McCarthy in a future piece, would be interesting on a rebuilding team. So if you were to pivot to a rebuild, you're essentially going to have to nuke your entire team. And the difficulty with that is if your league mates aren't necessarily trade happy, you're going to have to do so at a discount. So one thing that you could do as well is you could kind of sit on your hands. 103, we could take best player available. Now that is going to be, I mean, we can go ahead and we can pull up my rankings real quick. And we don't necessarily, let's just look at the expert rankings. 103 is like Tet McMillan at the moment, which Tet would fit this team. Hampton would fit this team. Hunter would fit this team, of course, if he's going to play receiver. Hell, Cam Ward would fit this team. Now, for me personally, because it's going to be a 10-team league, I wouldn't push the button on Cam Ward. I'm not going to be pushing quarterbacks up our rankings in 10-team super flexes in comparison to 12-teamers. So really, it's going to be Tet, Hampton, or Hunter, depending on the news that we have with Hunter at or around the NFL draft. So we could go ahead and take best player available there. 203, which is more so going to be pick 13, 10-team format. There we have some flexibility as well. I think that this is kind of going to be a stick and pick situation too, where we can go ahead and we can look at guys like Matthew Golden, either of the tight ends, whether that's going to be Warren or Loveland. We can look at Sanders if he actually gets the NFL draft capital. You can look at Dart. You can look at Milrow if they get the NFL draft capital, because quarterback 3 could be something that we're looking at. I mean, it could be something that's interesting. The last thing that I would do on your team, though, and I know you said that you wanted to be a contending build this season. I think if you were to begin to sell your rookie picks for veterans, especially if you were to sell your future picks for veterans, because you're not one of these juggernaut teams at the top, it puts you in an extremely compromising position where, say you were to go ahead and you were to sell your 2026 first right now, and you were to bring in a veteran running back, I don't know, doesn't particularly matter what name, but Derrick Henry. Who cares? The name, more so the thought process. You bring in that veteran RB. We have no future first. And then in the NFL draft, the Cincinnati Bengals, they take Caleb Johnson in the third. Chase Brown turns into a committee back. And all of a sudden, that value is nuked and our running back room is below average. Then we get to week 3 of the season. Josh Allen gets hit with a high ankle sprain. All of a sudden, you are quickly one of the worst teams in the league with no future pick, and your mortgage is screwed, and the downside is crazy. So I would be okay if you wanted to view this roster as a contender, but I think you need to be a little bit conservative about it. I would not be mortgaging any of our future value for production at the moment. If you go into the season and it's like, hell, Pacheco's back to what he was. He's the Chiefs starting running back, and he's actually looking like a solid RB2. The Cincinnati Bengals just take a running back in round 5 as a backup to Chase Brown. Chase Brown's crushing it as an RB1. We took Hampton at the 103, and Hampton's also an RB1. Oh, Debo's resurrected in Washington. All of a sudden, we're 4-0. Hell, if you wanted to take your 2026 first-round pick at that point, and if you wanted to package together with Pittman and go get a great wide receiver at wide receiver 3, you do it at that point. But to do so now would just be incredibly reckless with the downside risk that this roster has. Now, what I would do, just honestly, if this was my own team, is I would say we're a lot closer to rebuilding than we are contending. I would just start putting out feelers. And if we can get any very clear wins. Now, of course, I'm not saying we need to abandon ship. We need to hit the hard rebuild button, which is what we would have to do if like Josh Allen got injured at the beginning of the season, CeeDee Lamb got injured at the beginning of the season, or we start off like 1-4. Then at that point, it's abandon ship, and you start selling these guys like Kelsey, Debo, Pittman, Diggs, Keenan, Pacheco for pennies on the dollar and anything that you can get. But right now you have leverage. Right now you have a shot to contend, so you only sell if you get a decent price. But I would be throwing some of these veterans out on the trade block. I would take that Stephon Diggs news of him signing with New England, and I would see if I could get the 202 for Stephon Diggs. Have pick 12 and then take one of the rookie tight ends and have somebody that maybe could be comparable with the production this season, but also give you a much higher floor for their long-term value. So if we can get any no-brainer deals like that, selling veterans at the moment for more flexible pieces that we wouldn't have to sell if we need to hit that abandoned ship button, that would be the main thing I'm looking to do. I'm going to hook you up with some free trade questions just in case you need any advice on if you get an offer, if you send anything. I'd be super happy to take a look at it for you. And yeah, please let me know in the live chat as well if there's anything else that you want me to take a look at or talk about with this team. I'd be super happy to do it. Let's see. Alex says, do you think the Jets move on from Brees? Probably not, no. JT says, Mason, how many teams have you drafted in the big board? Any in the biggest? I have drafted a total of 0 underdog teams. And I'm not going to until BBM drops. We've been working a crap ton on the site. Hopefully y'all have noticed. And I am saving up energy so I can stream like an animal the second the NFL draft happens. The second the draft happens, it's go time. So we've been saving energy. I've not done a single draft. But Angel, I appreciate you. And again, I hooked you up with a couple of those free trade questions. So if you have anything that you want to follow up with, I'd be super happy to check it out. And feel free to wait as long as you want to send those over. If you don't have a trade question until week 1 of the season, you should still have that free trade questions sitting there waiting for you. But let's go over and let's check out this for EA Calder. It says, finished 3rd last year with basically no running backs. Think I got a team that can compete next year and will probably try to draft an RB. Do you think I should trade away a quarterback for a running back or wait a few games into the season and trade our future first? Okay. Team name here is Elgin has a micro Penix. Same, my friend. Ooh. Feel bad for Elgin. Living my life. But this is a 12-team Superflex Start 10 PPR non-tight end premium format. My guy, okay, this is insane. You did not lie. You have no running backs. If we got 3rd with this team, I wish I could go back in a time machine and I wish I could say, you know what? At the end of last year, we needed to sell our future first. We needed to go get a running back and we needed to push to win because you were ready to do so. This team was ready to win. And that's the perfect example of like, I'm not really telling many people to go trade for veteran running backs April 17th. But hell, I mean, if it's week 13 or week 12, 11, the last week before your league has their trade deadline, and we're sitting there and we're a top playoff team with no RBs, feel free to go. This is the time to trade my future first and go get a couple veteran RBs from a team that collapsed halfway through the season. But anyway, we are sitting with the 2nd most value in this league, according to the league analyzer. Definitely a tier ahead of us. You have the Don't Puka DeBear team. They look like they have considerably more value than everybody else. They have Allen, Nix, Puka, Neighbors, Rome, Rice, Olave, Kyron, the 104, the 105. They have a ton of pieces to play around with, right? But outside of that, we're in a great spot. Looking at quarterback, there's not really much to discuss. Great quarterback room. We have Burrow, Kyler, McCarthy. None of these guys are guaranteed to lose value going into next offseason, right? So it's not like you'd have to sell them if you pivot over to a rebuild. If I was a rebuilding team, I'd probably throw Kyler on the block and see what we get. If we can get a good price, I would sell him. But if you're a contending build, it's like the exact kind of quarterback room we're wanting. Going over to running back, if Tajay Spears was my running back 4, I'd be excited. If Rico Dowdle was my running back 5, I'd be excited. If Ray Davis was my running back 6, I'd be excited. But when there are RB1, RB2, RB3, It's disgusting. We have the 10th ranked running back room in this league. I don't even know how it's possible that there are worse running back rooms than us. I guess this team just has Dobbins and Devin Singletary. This team has Pollard, Khalil Herbert, and literally those are the only two running backs I even have ranked on their team. So, yeah, I mean, you have a couple league mates that hate running backs as well. But clearly, the biggest need that we have with this roster is going to be the running back position. And I think that there could be some very easy moves for us to go ahead and address RB. Going over to receiver, we're loaded. We have Thomas, we have London, we have Wilson, we have Addison. A Waddle, if he was my wide receiver 2, I'd be terrified. My wide receiver 3, I'd be okay. My wide receiver 5, I'm pumped. I think that Waddle is a great piece here. McMillan, if he was my wide receiver 3, it'd be whatever. I'd probably not like him. Wide receiver 4, maybe a little exciting. For McMillan to be our wide receiver 6, awesome. Tillman wide receiver 7, awesome. This is a great wide receiver room, and I actually think that we do have some expendable assets here, particularly near the bottom end range with McMillan. Again, I was with the Domain guys, with the FSC guys this weekend, and McMillan was one of those players that we did argue about a bit. I just don't particularly see like how he moves the needle for you with this team. I definitely would see if we could send McMillan, get back like a mid-second rounder, and just get a little bit more flexibility in terms of what we could do with that pick, either during the rookie draft with selecting a rookie running back, or maybe during the rookie draft and pivoting that away to actually get a veteran RB that dodges NFL draft competition coming to his backfield. So I think if we could sell maybe one of those bottom end receivers, what it's going to take is it's going to take us finding a team that is looking to rebuild. So this team has Bijan, Henry, Montgomery. They're probably not rebuilding. They definitely need some quarterback help, definitely need some wide receiver help, but like they don't really have, I mean, maybe this is the perfect trade candidate, right? They're contending. The 207, we send them McMillan. Expert rankings, 207 at this point. It's like Giddens, Sampson, Tootin, Dart. I would maybe ask for a little bit more. Let me see with the trade calc real quick. Let's go. We receive a mid-second. We send McMillan. Could we get back a third too? Yeah. I think with your build in particular, it could be an absolute no-brainer to send like McMillan for the 207, 307, 308, if that is a possibility. And then hook yourself up with like a player like Dylan Sampson if he finds himself great draft capital, or again, you can kind of pivot during the draft when we have a little bit more flexibility. This is another team that has definitely a need when it comes to the wide receiver depth. They have Debo, Jennings, Pittman, wide receiver 2 through 4. They don't really have any quarterback production, but they're definitely contending. They traded away all their future picks. They have like CMC, Brees. The issue is if we were to go ahead and trade McMillan, I don't exactly know what return we're going to be getting with this roster in particular, because I don't know what they could give us. If the Chiefs don't take a running back on either day 1 or day 2 of the draft, maybe we pivot from McMillan and go get Pacheco. I'm going ahead and looking at this roster. Definitely looks to maybe be a little bit more of a rebuilder. This is another example, like we can wait until the NFL draft, see what the Giants, see what the Cardinals do, see if we can pivot from McMillan and get that running back depth piece. But I think you should view yourself as a contending team. I know a lot of times I say, oh, let's wait a few games into the season and let's see if we're contending and then we make plays. No, I mean, your team's strong enough with this wide receiver core, with this quarterback core, having Trey McBride, where addressing the running back position is going to be a priority at the moment. I think sending away McMillan when you have this kind of wide receiver depth to go get like the 207 and 2/3 to give yourself some flexibility in the draft, maybe with those third rounders, right? I mean, we can go ahead and we can look at the average rankings. We can just kind of take RJ Harvey, Ollie Gordon, Trevor Etienne, take 3 kind of bad running backs in the third round, pair that up with a second round Tootin, and give ourselves at least a little upside when it comes to solving the running back room here with that McMillan piece combined with the 309. And then with the 109, obviously, if we end up getting Judkins in a bad landing spot, Henderson in a bad landing spot, falling, very easy picks for us there. If we end up getting Caleb Johnson, I think that could be a perfect fit for this team. And again, if you were to go through and make those moves where we sell that depth wide receiver piece, take some shots on some rookie running backs late, or take a rookie running back there at the 109, as long as we're not reaching on somebody like Scadaboo, you're in a really good spot where even if the train goes off the rails and like everything goes horribly wrong, I mean, you have pieces that aren't going to be losing a ton of value going into next season. And that's obviously the absolute worst case scenario. So for me personally, I think you're in a great spot. I think we would try to address running back now with some of those younger assets. And even if you're instead like selling McMillan for, if you can get to a no-brainer like Joe Mixon, you're a good enough team where it's confident that we can project you out as contender, or I think it's a completely fine move to make right now. But again, really do appreciate you, and really hope I was able to help you out in some way with this, my guy. But I do think we should have traded for a running back last year. I think you could have made a play then. Now, let's go ahead. Let's check this team out for Fantastic Median. Appreciate you, my guy. And it looks like this is going to be another one of those teams that we are second in the league analyzer. We won the league last year, but wouldn't consider my team the best in the league. Not entirely sure how, but a team as Lamb, Chase, Neighbors, Rome, Bowers, Bijan, Barkley. Yep, this is the juggernaut in the league. They even have the 112. I guess we traded them our first from last year. Hell, if it turned out to be the 112, that's absolutely perfect. I'm really wondering if I should try to get a lot younger or continue to ride out A.J. Brown and Derrick Henry. So here's going to be the difficulty where you're sitting with this kind of league dynamic. There is that absolute juggernaut at the very top, right? Where you already addressed it. They have Chase, Jefferson, Lamb, Nico, Bowers, Bijan, Burrow, Love, Kyron. Loaded. We are coming off a year where we just won the league with Lamar, Herbert, Gibbs, Brown, Henry, Bryant Thomas, JSN, A.J. Brown, Olave, Khalil Shakir, Trey McBride. If you decide, you know what? I think I want to get younger. I think that I want to maybe kick the can down the road a year or retool just a bit and come back with the juggernaut in 2026. When we're looking at these assets like Derrick Henry, A.J. Brown, the only possible teams that would or could trade for these are going to be contending rosters. And how many teams can convince themselves when you have these two strong rosters at the top that they are truly contenders? So for me, I have seen a lot of times the dynamic in leagues like this are going to be where it's difficult for you to actually get the value that maybe you deserve if you were to sell Derrick Henry, if you were to sell A.J. Brown. So I would actually rather hold on to them and try to run it back this next season, because it's not like you have a single asset on this team where you can say, well, you know what? This piece is going to be much worse this next season than what it just was. If Lamar stays healthy, Lamar should be the same guy. Herbert, we go back, and of course the quarterback the actual fantasy output was pretty disgusting this past season because of the scheme. But I mean, if we can go back, the year prior, 234 points with only 13 games played. And then before then, you had 3 straight finishes inside the top 10 in fantasy, with one of those being 380 points. God, this year you had 32 pass attempts inside the 5-yard line. That is ridiculous. So, I mean, Herbert, realistically, can put us in a spot to contend. So, quarterback, we're just fine. It's not like either of these quarterbacks should be much worse. Herbert just had his worst fantasy season ever. No reason to project Gibbs to get any worse. I guess maybe the offensive coordinator changed, but it's still Gibbs going into year 3. Montgomery, if anything, is going to be the guy to take a step back. Chase Brown, maybe if he gets nuked in the NFL draft. Derrick Henry will be older. I think Derrick Henry is maybe the one player on this team where you can say natural regression could probably hit him. But then Brian Thomas could get better going into year 2. JSN's going to year 3. A.J. Brown's still in his prime. Chris Olave's not having a year worse than last year. Khalil Shakir, I understand a lot of people were like super pumped on what Shakir did last season. And I know people wanted to say, oh, Mason, you're way too wrong on Shakir to not draft him in underdog drafts. The dude had 2 wide receiver 1 finishes last season, and both were wide receiver 10 weeks. He had 1 week with 20 fantasy points. Like, I don't want to dog the guy or anything, but it's not like Shakir's the reason you won the league last year. It's not like Shakir can't get better going into this next season. No reason for McBride to go down. So I don't see any reason for this team to like come from winning the league last year to thinking all of a sudden that we actually need to pivot to a rebuilding team. Like, looking at the roster above us, it's not like any of these pieces have an argument to be made. Oh my gosh, Jamar Chase going to be so much better this next season than he was last year. Justin Jefferson's going to be so much better this next season than he was last year. It's not like we can say that this team's just gotten 10 times better and they're for sure destined to win the league. I think you still play for it. I still think you're a contending team easily. And with that context in mind, like, realistically, what could we do here? I think that you're almost in a perfect spot. Clearly, we need a QB3. If you wanted to go ahead and see if we can attack a rebuilding team and get just like a bum quarterback 3 off their roster, like this team, maybe they are rebuilding. If I was this owner, I would say so, but they don't have their own future first. But I mean, if you could trade like your second and third for Geno, that would be an absolute no-brainer. Much easier said than done. This roster over here, if we could trade your second and third to get Matthew Stafford, an absolute no-brainer. If you can trade your second and third to get Anthony Richardson, an absolute no-brainer with you having the late second and third. If you think Daniel Jones is going to be the guy in Indianapolis, trade your 212 and 312, get Daniel Jones from this team that very clearly should be a rebuilding roster. So I think that's a move that you could look to make right this second if we wanted to make a trade. But the difficulty I'm going to have with telling you to do much is it is such a powerful position to be sitting here with 3 future firsts on a contending team. Because we're going into the season with a week 1 starting lineup of Lamar Herbert, Gibbs, Chase Brown, Derrick Henry, Brian Thomas, JSN, AJ Brown, and then Trey McBride. We have Olave, Shakir, Myers on the bench, so we have plenty of depth. And the crazy thing is, what happens if Herbert gets injured? Oh, well, we have a 2026 first where we can go address that quarterback position right away. What happens if McBride goes down? We have another 2026 first where we can address it. We have 3 2026 first round picks. So with the 3 2026 first, you're looking at an extremely well-balanced roster right this second where you have all the dry powder to make moves during the season. Like, this is a 2-man race, and then that's it in this league. There's the Conan O'Brien, and there's the Homer Simpson. That's it. Maybe Rick Sanchez here. If they hit on the 106, the 110, maybe they're in play. But in reality, no. Do not trade Derrick Henry. Do not trade AJ Brown. You're in the best spot you could possibly be. If we're looking for you to do anything, it's seeing if we can go dumpster dive and go get like a Russell Wilson, go get maybe even a worse, a Geno Smith, a Daniel Jones, go get a quarterback from a rebuilding team that wants something to do with them and see if we can send them that 212, 312, and then maybe like a Ben Sinnott or a Trey Benson with it. Just any of these younger players that maybe have a little bit of name appeal that somebody would make a move for. Bring in a quarterback 3 like Russell Wilson, where quarterbacks during the bye week not going to be a concern for us. But again, I just don't see any reason for us to pivot from the contending approach when we won the league last year, and our team should just be getting better this next season. So I really wish I had more for you. I'm definitely going to hook you up with a couple free trade questions. So if you do get any trades your way, I'd be super happy to take a look at them. I'd be super happy to try my best to help out and see what we could do. But reality of the situation is I think you're sitting pretty, and I don't think there's much to do, to be honest. Now let's move this over and let's take a look at some of the super messages we have. Team Turbo says, Would you trade London, the 102 and the 206, for Bo Nix, the 112, and 2 future first? Okay, so if this is going to be a super flex league, 102 versus Bo Nix, let's just go ahead and let's put this in the trade calculator so it's easy to view, right? So are we going to trade London, the 102? And I think it's safe to say, right, that this has to be a super flex league. If this was going to be a one quarterback format, there's no interest in this at all. A mid-second versus Bo Nix, the 112 and 2 future first. We'll say it's one early to mid and one mid to late. So trade calculator at the moment has this as a deal where we're slightly losing. But if I was going to be making an argument for this, I would say on a rebuilding team, I would probably prefer Bo Nix over Drake London. And on a rebuilding team, I would prefer the 2 future first and the 112 over the 102. So if you were a contending roster, this type of deal doesn't make sense. But if you're going to be rebuilding and trying to accumulate value going into next offseason, yes, I would do this. But it really does come down to your personalized situation and your personal team direction. Now, let me answer our next question from Trojan King. This is going to be a Lawrence up tier to Mahomes to down tier from London to the 105. This is a 10-teamer. With a ton of wide receiver depth. Let me just triple check to make sure I'm looking at this correctly. Yeah, so we're trading Lawrence in London, right? We're getting Mahomes in the 105. Yeah, we're going to want this. Because after we trade London, we'll still have Neighbors, JSN, Harrison, Olave, Judy, Pearsall. Our quarterback room will upgrade to Kyler and Mahomes. We'll have the 105 on top of it. So you'll be able to bring in like Hampton and then potentially Judkins, Henderson, and immediately have a contending team. So yeah, I think we go ahead and make this move. I think you go get the 105 in Mahomes, honestly. Okay. But let me refresh this. I have a meeting that we need to take, so I may. Okay. Tony comes in with the trade question. Let me answer this real quick. This is Chase Brown, the 106, versus the 103 in an early second. Ooh, this is a good question. Let me put this in the calc. Let's also look at the rookie rankings and get a sense on what we are going to have at both picks. 106, Chase Brown. Okay, trade calc says it's going to be a fair deal. Looking at the rookie rankings, is this going to be a super flex? This says one quarterback. Let me confirm that it's, yeah, this is going to be a 1 QB league. 1 QB league. So that 103 is either going to be Hampton or McMillan. The 106 is less interesting because Cam Ward's no longer going to be an option. So you're effectively looking at, say, Judkins and Chase Brown versus McMillan or Hampton, depending on what happens with Travis Hunter. So for me, I think that it all comes down to your perception on what the Cincinnati Bengals are going to do. The winning side of this deal is going to be the Chase Brown side. if the Cincinnati Bengals don't draft a running back until day 3. But if you think the running backs if you think that the Bengals end up pulling a trigger on a running back in day 2, whether that's round 2 or round 3, or if you think Travis Hunter plays wide receiver, you want the 103 side. For me personally, I would almost go with, I have no freaking idea. I think I go 106 if it's super flex, because that Cam Ward pick's going to push a prospect down for us, but in a one quarterback format, that 106 is going to be worse. If you think that there's a greater than 50% chance that Travis Hunter's a wide receiver, that gives us Hampton or a generational wide receiver prospect there at the 103 without taking any of the risk on for the Chase Brown situation. If you think that Hunter is going to end up being a defensive player and at the same time the Bengals aren't taking a running back, then the Chase Brown side's the winning deal. Super interesting and super fun trade, though, especially coming in on the NFL draft. But I think we're going to wrap up here. I will be live tomorrow. We need to be, I just got back from that trip with FSC and Domain guys again. I know I've already said that a couple times now, but that's why we haven't live streamed over the past few days. But I think we're going to live stream pretty close to every single day over the next week. And honestly, through the rest of the month and maybe early May. We're going to be live streaming a lot more right now, but we're going to cut this one a little bit short because I got a work call I got to take. But much love, ladies and gentlemen. I really do appreciate y'all. And I really hope I get